Steve, welcome to the show, buddy. It's good to see you.
Brian, as if you don't spend enough time with me, you had to have another hour with me.
It was pretty much all day yesterday, but that's okay. That's a typical day in the life. No, I mean, for the listeners, Steve and I go way back. It's been several years, and we're part of the same real estate mastermind. So, and I want to just state for those of you who are listening and not watching, after you listen to the episode, make sure you head over to the YouTube channel because Steve is supplanted firmly on his Game of Thrones chair. It's a must see. So please go watch the episode on the YouTube channel. All right. All kidding aside, Steve, we were talking a little bit before we hit record about, your path to real estate is like a lot of people. It's not a straight line, and it's not necessarily, well, I was doing this real estate thing, so I just led into real estate. So give us some context about what you were doing for a very long time before you found real estate as your path out of the W-2.
Yeah. That's funny. It's we were just saying like almost like 5 years now of since we've gotten into real estate. And it's funny. I can't even remember my life before that. So what I used to do is I came from about 75 years of family-owned business. My grandfather created 3 generations of opportunities for our family, starting with his family to his kids, passed down to his grandkids, a couple of my cousins as well. And what we did was we were in the woodworking world. So we did all like high-end stuff like kitchens and basically they were all luxury items, everything that we did. That's what we built. And we did that for years and years and years. I came along, I worked for them for about 10 years. And somewhere around 2012, which was 4 years after the crash, which we were pretty impacted by the customer base because we didn't sell necessities. We sell luxury items to people who were well off. And about 2012, the business was starting to really slow down. And we had got purchased by a big, large company that was like doing more or less basically manufactured work, not custom. And I just spent the next, whatever that was, I think it was somewhere around 6 or 7 years, super unhappy working for corporate America. And I just realized very fast that, man, I need this family-oriented, trusting, loyalty like environment. And just wasn't happy with my life at that point, to be honest with you.
Very similar story. Okay, so how did you find? We're part of the same real estate group. We've been part of the same group for several years. You've been around longer than I have been. And I remember some of those moments where you would come on the masterminds and you were just pretty miserable. So I remember those moments, and you're definitely not now. So maybe chat a little bit about how you came to find the group that we're in, Wicked Smart now. And then let's talk a little bit about like some of the challenges and struggles that you had when it came to finally leaving.
Yeah. So in the summer of 2018, my wife at the time, we were both looking at ways into real estate because we both had entrepreneurial brains. Like we always had either multiple jobs or we had a couple businesses that we were messing around with. Like I built furniture, custom furniture for people. Like I was just doing stuff as additional income for the family, but I wanted to get serious. And I knew real estate from other people, even my grandfather that I mentioned earlier that had the 75 years he created of family business. He had rentals all over the place. I didn't even know about this until probably 5 or 6 years ago, but I just knew that I needed to get in there somehow. So it's so funny that first, before we even found out about Smart Real Estate Coach, we had gone and taken like a $50,000 HELOC out in our house to buy our first multifamily. As well, because I didn't know anything else. I just knew that that's what you do, right? And my ex-wife at the time had just got like a Facebook ad of Smart Real Estate Coach, and I'm like, this guy's from Rhode Island. He looks familiar. Either way, we started digging into him. Was like, wow, this guy's just like us. He's super honest. He's super blunt. It doesn't seem like there's any nonsense here. Come to find out, and this is just this is an additive. I'm talking about Chris Prefontaine. I did work for him back in like 2007 and did a bunch of stuff in one of his luxury condos over on Dame Street, Newport, where we have the events. And he was like a customer of ours for years. And I just didn't know because I didn't have really relationships with our customers. But that's how we came into it. It kind of just organically happened. And then we went and called and we talked to the whole family and just figure out, is this what we want to do? And And we didn't end up buying that multifamily because we had put a bid on a house and somebody else outbid us. So like all this just happened to work out. And who knows if that one house that we didn't get the bid on would have affected where I am today.
Amazing. I did not know that story about Chris, that you worked on one of his houses. Now he's referencing Chris Prefontaine, by the way, episode 15 of the W2 Prison Break Show, if you want to check that out. Chris Prefontaine, my coach and mentor, and Chris's as well. That's who we're referring to. Okay. So you mentioned, so it is kind of interesting how when you're looking for something, it just appears, right? What you said something that resonated with me, which was you wanted to get serious. Like you've been kind of dabbling in these side businesses, which I think a lot of people who are working W-2s are doing, but you wanted to get serious. So what was it that made you want to get serious about it?
Good question. So, I mean, I spent so many years not really understanding business, but I knew I could outwork the people around me. So I was throwing more energy than I was like physical energy at things than using my brain for so many years, Brian. I mean, I'm talking like I would just be, and it's good to hear this because this is kind of gives you a perspective. If you're at home, right, and you have a job, and then you also have this entrepreneurial brain where you're like, you're creating businesses, but maybe you're not getting a lot of traction. So like my life, when I first like found out about Smart Real Estate Coach, was I had a job. I was working 60 hours a week. I had an hour drive to work. I had an hour drive back. When I got home, I worked second shift. So I got home at like midnight, and I had two very young kids. And I was building for my other businesses when I got home from 12 to 3 in the morning. And every day I woke up at 7 to start my day over again. And I wasn't getting traction because I was doing too many things. I didn't have the energy. I didn't have the bandwidth. And there wasn't anyone surrounding me, like looking over my shoulder to give me any kind of insight on what I could be doing differently that will find success, instead of me just burning the candle on both ends and just thinking all this energy is going to equal to something. I needed somebody to be able to give me guidance. And I didn't have that for so many years. I just had the work ethics.
Okay. This is good stuff, because I think a lot of people need to hear that, because they're probably doing exactly what you did, burning both ends of the candle, just thinking they could out hustle and outwork everyone, which may be the case, but there's limitations on that. And eventually you'll get to the point where it's like, I'm just tired of doing this. Like I've had enough. Like there's got to be a better way to do this, right? A faster way, a more efficient way.
Right.
You said people surrounding me. Okay. So you made the decision to join the group, and how long from we'll get into the details, but how long from the moment you joined? Well, I'll go back here. You were in W2 for how long?
16 years.
And how long out of the 16 were you really trying to do something to help break you out of that life?
Probably months after my family got bought out in 2012. So I would say somewhere around 6 years of needing something to somehow get me out of this thing that I hated so much.
Okay, 6 years. This is good, because I know this can be similar. So you join the mastermind group, you get a coach, you're surrounded with the right people. How long before you left the W2?
Oh my goodness, so funny. 16 months.
16,
16.
Yeah, 16. Okay, 16 months. For me, it was about a good 10 years of trying on my own, and then 9 months after I came into the group. So this is not like rocket science. Like this stuff matters. Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Steve. And I remember the day that you left your job, and it was a joyous moment for the entire group. But maybe, like, what started to change once you joined the group? And then let's get into some of the fears around leaving the job, even though you like had the support and probably were feeling pretty good financially. But what started to change, number one, and then we'll talk about fear.
This is easy, and it's so funny how simple it is, but you need other people sometimes to show you the other side of the tunnel. In my career, what I've always been good at is connecting with people and being able to lead. And I was always a supervisor or something. So I was good with people. Now, what I wasn't good at doing was voicing my honest opinions and creating boundaries with people who had a direct impact on my future. Like when it came to that moment, I knew it was uncomfortable and I was just kind of the path of least resistance in difficult conversations. You don't get anywhere, right, doing that. And when I came into this group of all these people that are trying to build something that they're unfamiliar with, the same fears, the same doubts, is the honesty and vulnerability and being able to say no. I didn't like saying no. Okay. I let other people dictate my time because I didn't value my own. I think that was probably, now that I'm saying it out loud, I kind of think that that's probably what it was. And when I came into the community and I started building these skill sets of talking to all these different personalities on the phone that don't know me from a hole in the wall, but then I started realizing the impact of honesty and authenticity on the phone, I started to transfer and transition those same skill sets in my W-2 job. And then that's when when I started speaking honest about my feelings, then I started realizing really how not only how unhappy I was with it, but also I had zero leverage on my future there. I just started to finally realize that. And I knew from the people I was surrounded by in this community and the overall genetics inside of me from people who said, I'm going to take the driver wheel right now and I'm going to take over and I'm going to change the path for hopefully generations like my grandfather did. That was there. I just needed to see it and I needed to have the right tools to access what was already, I think, inside of me.
Yeah. Wow. That was flipping awesome, Steve. Thanks for that. It sounds like you just revealed some things about yourself that you didn't even realize during that little talk there. So really awesome stuff. Didn't value my own time. A lot of us have problems with boundaries, zero leverage on my future. Great stuff. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about, because we keep talking about Wicked Smart. We keep talking about real estate. Let's talk a little bit specifically about what it is that we're doing and why that resonated with you, because we are helping a lot of people. I love the thing about the sellers because, and we'll go back to that in a minute, but I love the thing about mastering this art of talking to people and how it carries over to other areas of your life. But let's talk about what we're doing first.
Okay. So basically what we do with the creative financial real estate that we're in is we take unconventional problems that sellers may be having in their life where they aren't able to, come up with ways for them to get from point A to point B. And we're coming up with creative solutions that can get them there that break the conditional way that we think. Right. We're able to help people say on one side who have maybe some financial disrepair and their lives, they don't understand how these moments in their life financially can impact them for the future. We're able to help that and stop the bleeding and get them in a position to not only be able to take this home, right? And I talk about this a lot with students. What a home represents is way more than just the house of where you live in. It's a place where you create memories. That's why it's sentimental, right? People, this is when they have a bad day or they have something really terrible that happens in their life, let's say. They always can rely on this home that's going to be the place where they can be them in their highest or lowest moments in their life. There's a lot attached to a home outside of a transaction. So you have to be able to go ahead and humanize all the conversations that you have with these people and understand that there is some kind of pain here. And hopefully there's a way that I can create something that's going to get them to exactly where they need to go. And if they don't, that's completely okay. If I can't help, I'm still going to put you in a position for you to go in a place that's going to still give you the ability to achieve what you're looking to accomplish. So the creative financial real estate puts us in a position where there's a lot of people out there, guys, that aren't like your normal seller that can just hire a real estate agent, sell their home, and move on to the next thing. That seems like that should happen every time. The realistic side is it doesn't. And not everybody can just afford to hire a realtor, or they're in a position to have this conventional transition. And we're out there seeking out these people who need help and coming up with solutions that can move them on to the next thing.
Well said, Steve. And yes, it's all about what we do is we solve problems and we help people move on. I've often said this, and I know you and I have discussed this. The home is your primary residence. Typically, for most people, it's typically your number one asset in terms of the financial piece. But above that, in my opinion, it's your biggest emotional attachment as well. Because again, like you said, the family, you grew up there, your family, your kids, maybe, some people who grew up in the house and they stayed there, right? They inherited the house from their parents, they still live there. So it's hard to let go of that. And you have to be, a lot of the sellers that we talk to, you and I have talked to thousands and thousands and thousands of sellers. And, a lot of them are bombarded with people who are just throwing numbers at them and not listening to them. Like they're talking about the financial end, and any property that I've ever purchased has not typically been because of the financial side. It's been because of solving a problem for them, removing pain from their life, and getting them to the next phase. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And a lot of people are flocking to this. A lot of people want to do this because of the uncertainty that's going on right now in the marketplace.
Yeah. When it comes to, I can't speak on all real estate because I've only focused on creative financial real estate, but this has to be about people. There's sides of it that are obviously transactional when you have to get to numbers and stuff like that. But if you don't get to know the person, the situation they're in, how it's going to impact them, whether now or in the future, if they're not able to get to their goals, you can't help them. There is no solution that you can come up with if you don't know what the problem is. And I think that's probably in the beginning stages of building this business and learning the ins and outs of the skill set. I think that the human touch is missed in the beginning because maybe you're stressed out about talking to people and how they'll perceive you and all this other stuff that we tell ourselves that's not real, right? We tell ourselves that like the person on the other end is going to hate us. The person on the other end is going to, what if he finds out that I've only been doing this for a month? What if he finds, you just start having all this internal negative dialogue. But the realistic side is you have to show up curious and looking to help somebody. If you can lead with your heart, then you'll be able to help somebody, whether that's with you or just putting them in a place that's going to be more beneficial for whatever their situation is today. It's very important. I think a lot of people mix that because obviously you're getting paid to do this. Mm-hmm. So it may muddy the waters, right? And what it is that helping and then the financial gains of it. But at the end of the day, there is no financial gains unless you're doing this for the right reasons.
Well said. Absolutely well said. So for everyone listening here, Steve's a coach. Okay, not only was this the exit to his W-2, which we're going to talk about in a minute here, but he coaches his stuff alongside of me and some other great people. So, which may or may not have been his plan when he came in, but he is a coach. He's a tremendous coach, and this is the type of stuff that that really changes lives. He's changed a lot of people's lives. Okay. Now, when you come into the community, you start doing some real estate deals. Now you're feeling like you want to leave, right? It's time to go. I remember this several years ago. But maybe kind of take us back to that moment, what you were thinking and ultimately what was it that got you to pull the trigger and leave?
Yeah, no, you're going to get the super honest truth on this one. So you may even remember this. This was probably like a month or two before I quit. Mm-hmm. And if you're not involved in our community, on Thursday nights, we have a mastermind with the entire group, and it's just open dialogue. It's very organic, and we're able to talk about whatever it is people want to discuss. Mm-hmm. And so what I worked second shift. So an Eastern time for where I live, it's 5:30 at night. And my lunch break was right around that time. So on my dinner break, I should say, because I work second shift. And I was having a rough day. I was pissed. Excuse my language. I was just fed up. I think everybody has this moment in their life where enough is enough. And that happened to be that night. And I remember that like on the inside, I was ready to explode. And we usually get on the call like 5 minutes early. Mm-hmm. And I remember Chris said to me, "Steve, you all right?" Like, it's like he just knew that there's whatever it was on my face, I was wearing whatever was going on inside of me. And I broke down. I was a mess. And I don't usually cry. And I was upset. And I was just having a rough day, man. I need to get out of this. This thing is taking everything from me and giving me nothing in return. And it's affecting everybody that's surrounded by me. There's a dark cloud around me. And the closer I get to the people I love, that dark cloud is now over them. So I had to do something. So now realistically, when I quit my job, 6 months prior to that, financially, we could have did it. But I had so many things that I was telling myself, I am not going to be the one that is responsible for bringing this ship down to my family, not being able to pay my mortgage, not be able to give my kids the same things that I'm giving them now. I just like, it was this moment of like, I knew inside of me that if I quit my job now, I have the motivation and discipline to provide for my family. But there was this tiny side on the other side that was saying, what if you can't? So that was the only thing holding me back. And I just had to, my fears and doubts at the time were outweighing everything. And I had to get to a point where my why, the meaning why I was doing everything, it didn't matter about all that noise. That noise was nonsense in comparison to what I was going to chase down like a rabid dog. There was nothing that was going to stop me, but I had to believe that myself. And I was on that line right before I quit, that line between, can you do it? Of course you can do it. And I had to take that leap. We all, if you're going to quit your job and you're going to go full time in something, it doesn't make a difference. You're going to have this feeling, this queasy feeling like this is a bad idea. It's because we're doing something, we're betting on us. But for us to be successful and take ourselves to complete new highs, you have to be able to put all your chips on you without a doubt, not even thinking about it.
Man, drop the mic, sir. No, totally agree. Totally agree. And look, it's called being a human being. I felt the same way when I was going to leave my job. Financially could do it. It was just like, there's something a little uneasy about this. Okay. I remember that moment. I remember that because I think you were sitting in your car. I think you had gone out to your car. Mm-hmm. And I believe you kind of expressed your concerns on the mastermind. So what was it? I mean, everything you said, I've heard it all. So many people have said it, the fear of betting on yourself. Like, what if it doesn't work? What, blah, blah, blah. But you're really close. You're like right on the line. So what gets you over the line?
Yeah, that was, so I had spent at that point, let's say 16 months around these people who have made massive changes in my life. And I'm not talking about financially, I'm talking about personal growth wise. I mean, I found things about myself that I didn't allow myself to access, like the vulnerability. I'm one of those people who are on the outside. I'm fun. I like to engage, but no one knew like the darkness that could have been inside of me about certain things. I just wasn't somebody to share those things. This group had brought that out of me so that I could actually say, like, speaking on this podcast and realizing something in the moment, right? It's just, I didn't allow myself to do that before. But what I realized was, and I knew this because Chris had said it, there is nobody here, including myself, that'll allow you to fail. There's no one. We're with you no matter what. We're with you. And in the past, I didn't have, outside of like supportive family members, I didn't have actual people surrounding me that are actually going to do things to progress me to a place where I could feel like at ease with my situation. And I think the fact that I didn't feel alone, and I had so many people, all they wanted to do was give themselves to me. Like whatever they could give me, they would give me. And they were looking for nothing in return. I knew I was in the right place around the right people, and there wasn't any way that I could fail because realistically, I mean, unless you're in the community, you can't 100% understand like and relate to what I'm saying. But in general, when you're around, like we always say, like you are basically financially like the 5 people you hang around with the most. And it goes more than that, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. I hang out with about 80 plus people a week who are doing the same thing or trying to achieve the same things that I am. And we have the same doubts, and we're able to make massive changes from a 30-minute conversation. As simple as that. And a lot of it's just limited in beliefs. It's as simple as like what holds us back is always between our ears, because the skill sets and the abilities that we have are almost indistinguishable, right? But it's like what the person can master with the internal dialogue is what stops them or makes them great.
Totally. What stops us is us. Always, always, always. And when we don't get what we want, we look at outside factors that are out of our control and we blame that. Great story. Great story there. And then the support, nobody in the community told you that you can't do it. Steve, stay in your job. Nobody said that. I remember that too. Everyone was encouraging, like, hey, it's time for you to go, man. It's time for you to go. Now, did anybody outside of the group tell you to stay in the job?
It's funny, right? Like this is another thing. you have to understand the purpose of some of the relationships that you have with people in your life. And it could be the closest people that you love more than anybody in the world, right? You pick anyone you want, whether it's sisters, it's mothers, it's grandparents, whoever it is. And what they want to do is they want to protect you, and they love you, and they want to have everything work out for you. But those people sometimes aren't the ones that are going to propel you into what you're looking to accomplish. Right. So I think it's important that whoever it is that you're surrounded by, make sure they're at least doing, or if you're taking advice from them, they're doing what you're doing. They're going through the same journey, or they're ahead of you, right? So they can give you foresight on what potentially is going to happen if you do these things. That's incredibly important. I feel like there was a second question there, Brian, and it lost my brain.
No, that was it. I mean, I think the advice that you're giving is, hey, look, if you want to become a real estate investor and quit your job, you don't talk to somebody who worked for, the government for 40 years and retired with a pension. Like, that's the wrong person, right? You would go talk to maybe your grandfather, right, who had actually been a real estate investor, or get around the right people. So be careful who you take advice from. We normally, and let me know if you agree with this or not, Steve, is we have these self-limiting beliefs like, no, I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. That's risky. I shouldn't do it. And then we go out and we look for people to validate that belief. And the easiest way to do that is to go to our family members who will tell us what we want to hear, trying to protect us, or people who are around in our circle in a W-2 that will say, no, don't do that. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that if I were you. And what they're saying is, yeah, I wouldn't do that if I were you, because they're scared of that scares them. So would you agree with that?
Yeah, projecting, other people will project their insecurities on you just because it's unknown territory. They don't have a perspective, right? So it scares them, like anybody. And another thing, I think it's important when it comes to the doubts within yourself. Like, you have to go into this, just say you're trying to be a business owner, not even necessarily real estate. There's going to be plenty of moments of uncomfort, doubt, all these feelings. It's normal, right? And it's okay that you're feeling that way. When it comes to the uncomfortable side, though, if you're feeling uncomfortable doing something you haven't done before, it just means that you're accessing potential that is completely foreign to you, and you don't know the results of what you're going to do, and you're scared of what if it doesn't turn out that way. But I can tell you right now, what this journey of taking a chance on myself, which that's what it was. I had to take a chance. I said, you know what? I'm not happy with my life right now. And what am I doing other than complaining and hanging out with people who like complaining? I'm just another one of the people, right? Sucked into this negative space that I'm just living in all the time. So put yourself in a position. It's okay that you feel uncomfortable. It's okay. That's a good thing. But you have to give yourself the ability to see what the other side of this dark tunnel looks like. Because I can tell you right now, being on the other side, when I came into this community, I was an expert in woodworking and what it was that I did. I could look you in the eye without blinking and tell anybody who was wanting to have a question about woodworking, there was nothing that I didn't know or I didn't feel confident about. And when I came into doing something new, I was incredibly uncomfortable because I felt like a 17-year-old again at a job for the very first time. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what the processes were. I didn't know the tricks. I didn't know how long things would take. So my expectations were all screwed up. You have to be willing to surrender to this and lean on the person that you chose to put in front of you to bring you to the next level of whatever this thing that you're chasing is. I'm referring to coaching. Without coaching, think about it as an friend. You're a sports fan. Do you think that there is any NFL, NBA, or MLB player that played baseball independently without a coach on any of their teams that they played on?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
It's not real.
I can't smile enough because it's ridiculous how we think that we don't need coaches in life, but that's the only way you continue to level up and advance. And so many people are against it, and there's a lot of reasons why they are. I think one of it is the fear that this could become real, and you have to actually bet on yourself. But no, great point. Yeah, no, there isn't a single player. I mean, Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time, and you better agree with that. He was coached.
Oh yeah,
He didn't do it on his own. Yeah,
I think that a lot of us get to a point in our life. I don't know if I want to say necessarily we think we got it all figured out, but I think we like tell ourselves that we've outgrown the ability to be mentored, or outgrow the ability to have somebody take us to another level, because maybe we feel so content in what it is that we're doing that we're like, we have happiness. Maybe we're not 100% fulfilled. Maybe you are 100% fulfilled, but there is no such thing as knowing everything or not being able to proceed. And I thought about it yesterday while I was on a call with students. Every single year since I've been in this community, at the end of the year, I look back and I say, wow, I have accomplished a lot. But then when I go a year in advance and I look back at how much I really didn't know. And the realistic side is in my W-2 job, I spent so many years like doing the same things, but like progressing as far as like basically where I limited myself because I didn't have people pushing me. And then where I am now, like I'm telling you, in a year from now, I'm going to look at myself in this podcast and I'm going to be very unhappy with some of the thoughts that I had. Some reason I know it. I just know me. And right now I feel like I'm the best version of me. But if you are not growing every day, 1%, small as that, then people are going to surpass you. You're not evolving. So you have to be open and vulnerable enough to know that there is people out there that can progress you and bring you to places that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're doing a great job, Steve. So, I mean, I know you, and I know that you're going to do that because you are of the growth mindset, right? Some people are cool with where they are, right? And that's fine. If you're content with your W-2 and, making $100,000 a year or whatever it is, and you get to spend more time with your kids and you're good, hey, I'm all for that 100%. But if you're like Steve and like me, and we were like, hey, we hate our life, we're unhappy, we need to get out of it. Like these, it's usually a few tweaks, right? It's not these massive, you don't have to jump off a building, and take this massive action. You normally just have to do a few things and then continue to do a few things and stack and stack and stack. And then all of a sudden 3-4 years go by and you're talking on my podcast.
Unbelievable. I say it all the time. And Zach, another one of our mentors, was saying it as this positive focus on one of our calls the other day. We spend like 15 seconds just saying something at the beginning of a call that's positive, family, business, whatever it was. And he had said, I have a speaking opportunity at Duke. How did I get here? And we look at Zach, it's like Zach is a superhero to us, right? But like I have these moments because I'm open enough to perceive and reflect on them now of like, I was here at one point. And if you ask people I went to high school with, what I'd be doing now, it wouldn't be where I am now because I just wasn't, the opportunities were not in front of me. But like to think that, and you mentioned this on one of the other calls we had, Brian, with that analogy or whatever it was about the captain on the ship. The captain has his hands on the wheel, right? He knows exactly where he's going. If he moves the wheel 1 degree, he ends up in a completely different place than he planned. And you have the ability to do that in your life. You can make a tiny change that can directly impact your life in the most significant way if you are up to do it. If you have the I don't want to say guts to do it because I've had the guts to build businesses my whole life. I just didn't get anywhere, but I didn't do it right. I didn't put the people in front of me that could progress me. That's the important key. Do not go 10 years or 6 years thinking about unhappy that you are until you finally take action, because who knows where Brian, you would be and I would be if we got those 16 years back.
100%. Look, I don't regret my path. I'm sure you don't either, but you talk to anyone like us, what advice should you give? It would be like, start sooner. I wish I would have done it sooner. Right. Not
Sure.
that we regret it. So really great stuff, Steve. I want to give now you're a coach. Steve's a coach. So he's coaching this stuff and he's doing it at a high level and changing people's lives. And we're going to give you now. He said that he didn't envision he'd be where he is right now. At be a coach, been on multiple podcasts, on stage. And speaking of on stage, a week from now, the airing of this episode, you're going to have an opportunity to meet Steve and myself at our group is having a mastermind event live in person in Newport, Rhode Island. So if you go to wickedsmartsummit.com, you can grab a ticket. You hang out with me and Steve and our entire group and check it out. I mean, this type of talk runs through the entire group. Like this is all how we are all the time. So if you want to be around some cool people and meet Steve, I would highly suggest you grab a ticket. It's definitely never too late. The second thing I would say to you is Steve is also an author. All right. He wrote a book. He talked about helping people earlier. He's got a chapter in a book. So do I. It's called Sell with Authority for Real Estate Investors. And we'll give it to you away for free. And you're also going to get a book that Chris Prefontaine, our coach and mentor, wrote called Real Estate on Your Terms. You get them for free. Just go to wickedsmartbooks.com/W2 Prison Break. You get to read. The books will be shipped to you for free. So you don't have to pay shipping. All right. Okay, Steve, before we start to wrap up here, I just wanted to ask you, what would you say then and now? So when you entered the community, this unhappy person, or you were excited, but like before that, what do you think some of the biggest changes are for you between then and now? Like what are some of the biggest differences?
So this specific business, Creative Financial Real Estate, that we're in,
Mm-hmm.
I think what it's done for me is, let's take out the real estate side, the business side, learning how to really listen and put value in front of people first without looking for anything in return has changed my relationships in my life. And it started with just calling sellers, right? Learning how to talk on the phone. And what it ended up turning into is always being present, always being authentic, always being me, instead of being what I think other people want me to be. This niche of real estate and being surrounded by people who have challenged me to think differently, challenged me to access places that make me feel uncomfortable, go deeper. Like I hired mindset coaches. Like the only reason why I can talk about these things and articulate them is because I knew nothing about them and I knew I needed to. And because the people surrounding me, they can't get the best version of me if I'm not working on myself first. If I'm a person that buries all my emotions like I did for the majority of my life, right? Those people who are trying to connect with me can't connect because I are not allowing people to do so. And this group has given me the ability to learn how to focus on me, because I felt so selfish for so many years thinking about doing something for me. It was always about everybody else. And I never left time for me, right? And what I was able to give these people was a fraction of myself in comparison to now. Mm-hmm. So be vulnerable enough, okay, for you to really feel things that maybe you necessarily push down to the bottom. Like allow those things and reflect on them. Because when you start to reflect, now I have the ability to connect with my students. Like I can go ahead and feel these things they're feeling. And just by their overall tone or whatever it is that they're going through, I can get to that place and I can help them. And the only reason why is I know how to get to that place inside of me now. And it's very important. It changes, as Brian, it changes the way you talk to your children. It changes the way you talk to your spouse, your wife, your family members. It's a completely different world if you'll take the chance to go there.
100%. Couldn't agree more. And I love that you did. I knew you wouldn't talk anything about dollars because most people just think if they're going to hire a coach, it's got to be quantified in dollars. While that is true, the side benefits are so much outweigh the financial and then some, because we're not here on this earth just to earn a bunch of money, right?
That's it, man.
I love that. What would you say? I just got a couple more questions for you, Steve. What would you say? What habits, maybe it's one or two or three or whatever it is that you do that you didn't do before, right? That set you apart or that make you successful that you're doing consistently on a daily basis?
Now this, I will tell you this, Brian, to be honest, for a very long time, I didn't take care of myself physically, my diet or workout or anything like that. About 6 months ago, I took it serious from Chris, as we were talking to earlier. He challenged me. We talk about clear and blunt to the point. You want to take action and you're fighting it, have the person that you trust the most tell you, Steve, you've been talking about this since I've known you for 5 years and you still haven't started working out and you still started eating healthy. Either start now or stop talking about it. And when I did, my goodness, how different the world is when you feel good about you and you feel good inside and you feel healthy and you're not tired and all that stuff. I was talking earlier about like being the best version of you. These things are all parts of the puzzle here for you to be able the best version of yourself. The other thing is, and this sounds so simple and so stupid, but like I always used to go to bed late and wake up late and do everything and be very I'd always be reacting instead of being planned. So now my days and everything, I'm planning the night before. I'm waking up early. I'm exercising. I'm having a daily routine. I'm doing something finally for me so that I'm winning starting out the day. And everything else just falls into place. It's easy. And then the other piece, and this is more of an organizational piece, but like before I came into this group, I had a calendar on my phone. I didn't use it, but I had a calendar on my phone. In my entire life, down to when I'm supposed to be cooking meals, when I'm picking my kids off the bus stop, work stuff, everything, it is in my calendar down to a T. And then there is, as you know, Brian, you've heard my phone a million times, there is an alarm that is paired with it so that I can go ahead and always be prepared, because I was living a life of just never being prepared and reacting, and that affects how productive I am. So I think those are the main things in my life right now that are probably fueling the success that's to come, and right now the things I'm focused on.
I love it. The small things. I mean, health and fitness is important to pretty much everybody, but you, other than Chris calling you out on it, which is, again, that's one of the benefits of being part of a group, is like people aren't, oh yeah, you'll do it next year. It's like, no, quit talking about it. Either do it or quit talking about it. Mm-hmm. What else? What other tweaks have you made that's you've been able to do it for this period of time and stick with it?
Accountability. This is the big piece. Russell, another coach in our community. Awesome. Every single morning we send each other metrics. We do that through what this is called an Oura Ring. It's basically like the Whoop app. It monitors your sleep, your sleep, your activity, everything, restfulness, all that stuff. And every day, the first thing we do when we wake up is we send our numbers and a voice memo to each other, specifically a voice memo, so we can hear the overall tone in our voices, what kind of mood we're in and all that stuff. And we say what we did, that we did all of our disciplines, right? We ate our breakfast, we worked out, we got this much sleep, whatever it is. That is a huge piece of this, because when you don't have somebody else holding you accountable, sometimes it's very easy for us to take the road of least resistance, which is just saying, I'll do it tomorrow. But the thing is tomorrow never comes. You have to get in this routine. You have to build these habits. And once these habits are in place, they just become a part of your life. That's it. Instead of this thing that is like this, this giant mountain that we're like, I got to do this again. I don't love working out. I don't love running. But I'll tell you this, how I feel when I'm done with it and how I feel when I look at myself outweighs any of this nonsense in my brain I tell myself about, this is going to be tough. I don't want to do it today. I'm tired. That's all for the birds now, because I know the results. You're just going to give you a chance to see what the results are.
Totally. Thanks for sharing that. By the way, folks, Russell Ham's been on the show as well. He's one of the earlier episodes. I have the ring too. I mean, and Chris, we keep talking about Chris. Chris is my accountability partner, the guy who told Steve to shut up and stop talking about it. So I have to deal with him every morning, and he's up at like 4 something. So I wake up and, he's already sent me everything. And we joke about it, but there's something to that, especially if you're a teeny bit competitive. Like it's like, I don't want to work out either when I get up. I'd rather not do it. I'd rather stay in bed, but I know that I have to report And it's like, I'm not gonna like, that's huge. So if you don't, and you can apply this accountability thing to anything in your life. It doesn't have to just be about health and fitness. Any goal that you're trying to accomplish, the point that we're trying to get across is here, you don't have to do it by yourself. Like you get around people that want the same thing and you do it together. Like I got to go run 6 miles after this podcast. I don't want to do it. It's like 30 degrees out, but I'm going to, because I told Chris that I was going to do it. So this stuff matters. Wouldn't you agree?
I hope that Cherry Hill treats you good today, buddy.
Cherry Road.
I know
Cherry
you're going
Road,
to run on Cherry Road.
I'm going over to Cherry Road today. Steve, this has been tremendous. Okay, last question. This is a wrap up here. You're in a room with all the listeners. They all want to leave their job. They don't like their life. They're in a place where they're feeling stuck and they're just not sure. What would you say to them?
I would just let them know that that's a natural thing that's going to happen to all of us. Okay. It's okay to feel doubt. It's okay to have insecurities in the moment, but don't let that stop you from pursuing something that could be literally your dream life on the other side. Okay. And I think this is important because I just saw this the other day. If your listeners may listen to David Goggins, and I'm not religious, he's not religious, but he said this, and this is really, really impactful. He said, what if when my time comes and I go to the pearly gates and I'm standing there in front of God and he shows me a picture of myself and he gives me a stat sheet. And that stat sheet says David Goggins, 182 pounds, Navy SEAL, Ranger School, all these accolades. And he goes, that's not me. Who is that? And God tells him, that's who you should have been. So don't go through your life like just holding back and not being the person you were meant to be. Please don't do that. I mean, I spent a little time doing that, not a ton, because like you said, Brian, I don't resent what I did in my past, because all of those skill sets, all of those tougher, difficult manual labor days that I went through, those were all part of my mental toughness journey of knowing who I am, how far I can go. Like having mentors along the line that were like very important to who I am today. I wouldn't change that. What I would change is my overall view on myself, because even though everyone around me saw potential and they thought that I was this, that, and the other, I didn't believe what they believed because I was telling myself things that weren't true. Change your internal dialogue, reframe your thinking, and be the version of you should always be.
Ooh, man, that was pretty heavy. Wonderful. Steve, thanks. I love the David Goggins quote. I'm going to listen to that, play that back. Really awesome stuff. I appreciate you. I mean, I appreciate your friendship. I've learned so much from you. You were somebody that I looked up to when I came into the community, and you're just continuing to teach me some great stuff. Vulnerability is hard for people, especially men. And you're doing a great job. So I appreciate your time today. I look forward to seeing you soon. And everyone, make it a great day.